Okay, so today we're going to be talking about cultivated meat in a roundabout sort of way, specifically the development of cell biomass for the production of cultivated seafood. Sam, welcome to Protein Production Technology International. We're glad you could be with us.
Welcome. Glad
You're
to be
the
here.
It's great to have you with us. Now, you're the co-founder and CEO of Fishway, so we're going to find out a little bit about that company and what you do and how you do it. Sam, I find it fascinating how so many leaders in food tech come from such diverse backgrounds, and from what I understand, your journey into this space has been anything but conventional. Are you able to walk us through your career path and share what drew you to food tech, specifically cultivated seafood?
Yeah, certainly. And it's indeed a very unorthodox route. Since I had my degree in economics
Hmm.
a long time ago, so I'm not the scientist, so you won't find me in the lab. So I started my career in the finance departments at a very big multinationals like Procter and Gamble and DHL, always working in the finance department, and then evolving to CFO level at the international bigger companies, but not anymore at the big multinationals.
Hmm.
But always working in the finance departments with a big focus on M&A. And during my last assignment, we bought quite a big company, and that made me set up my own private equity fund 10 years ago. So it's a Belgian small private equity fund, and where we took some participations in some companies, and also acting as a board member in those companies, setting up new companies, scaling up, advising companies. So that's where I gained my experience within the finance departments.
Hmm.
And then I bumped into someone who wanted to set up her own business, Nina Kolzat, and we started talking, and that's how I got into yeah uh, into setting up Fishway.
So, I mean, what inspired you to start
Yeah.
Fishway? But we'll come on to that in a minute. But could you tell us when you founded the company and who joined you on that journey? I'm curious to know about the founding
Yeah.
team and how they came
So
together.
so like I told you, I bumped into Nina Kozat, who was bioengineer, and she had been working for the aquaculture sector for a long time. And she wanted to set up her own business, and she asked me to help her to set it up. And I said, of course, I want to help you. We started talking, and then all of a sudden, and her business was in cellular agriculture. So all of a sudden she asked, "Yeah, why don't you join me?" I said, "Yeah, that's another question." So I started Googling because I didn't know the sector at all, and then I found out that it was a sector with a real future. It's a solution to many problems. We will come to that later on.
Mhm.
And I believed in it. And since my private equity fund was a closed end fund, so it was going to the end, I had time, and I said, well, let me Google a lot about the sector, and then I found out a lot of multinationals invested in the sector, a lot of business angels like Bill Gates, Leonardo DiCaprio. They all invested in the company,
Mhm.
in the sector. And then I saw that Blue Seafood, which is one of our competitors or colleagues in Europe,
Mhm.
they raised quite a lot of money quite soon after they were founded. So I said, well, it's going to be an easy trip. So I said, I'm gonna join you. So I think we talked about 6 months. We started talking in January 22, and in June 22 we were founded.
Mhm. Now,
So
sorry, go on.
yeah, it's and so that's the founding team. And luckily, we got introduced to a team of scientists who were already working for over more than 10 years together on stem cells, and um, and they just had they got the notice from the company that the company was going to be shut down, so they didn't have work anymore, and we got into contact them. They also believed in our story, and they joined us in November 22. So we took off with a team and a founding team.
Yeah, it was quite quick. Now, starting a company in the alternative protein space, especially in cultivated seafood, it can't be easy. I guess there's funding, partnerships, market positioning, many moving parts. What would you say has been the biggest business challenges that you've faced so far in getting Fishway off the ground? I
Yeah,
guess more
first of
so we'll come on to the technical hurdles a bit later.
yeah. Yeah, first of all, of course, like you say, the funding. It's a long road until we get our first income. So it will be 5-6 years before we get our first revenues. So we need to find the right investor who has patience. But in the beginning, we didn't have anything. We just had an idea. So it's very hard to find big funds or big investors. So what we did in the beginning is that we talked to family, friends, and I'm not saying fools, but fish lovers, and they believed in our story. So we set up some convertible loans. And that's why we got our first month's the necessary funds. Then the second biggest thing is, which already told you about, is getting a team together. So finding the right people, because that's key in every company. And there we had a bit of luck that we got into contact with a team. So we got, we had a rocket start. But not only the team, but we also could take over their lab. So the team worked in that lab. And they said, okay, you have to take over that machine that is out of date. So it was a dream start. So the funding was there, the team was there, the lab was there. So that's a dream because that's the most difficult part of setting up a company. And then after a few months, okay, we had our first results. We were very quick and good results because of the team. We were able to find our first bigger investor, which is a Belgian family house, and they are the cornerstone investor at Fishway at this moment. So it's are the main challenges of setting up cultivated seafood business.
Now, can I come on to the sort of inspiration now? I've written a few articles on this topic, and I know that overfishing is a huge issue for the environment. So it feels like this is the perfect time to dive into that. So from your perspective, what's the current status of global fisheries? How is overfishing affecting fish populations in different parts of the world? And are there any particular regions or species that concern you the most?
Yeah, the situation is not that good. 1/3 of the stocks are depleted. If some numbers, even more than 40% of the fish stocks in the Northeast Atlantic are gone. 87% in the Mediterranean and the Black Seas are currently subject to unsustainable fishing practices. So that's not good news, and it's only going the wrong direction. Overfishing has led to a significant decline in global fish populations, with over 38% of the fish stocks now considered overfished. This unsustainable practice is not only threatening marine biodiversity, but also jeopardizes communities dependent on fishing. So it's like the biggest fleet, China's fleet. They have just illegal activities across various regions, making the seas empty. The way they fish is really not sustainable. They now have 3 ships together. The left ship pushes the fishes to the middle. The right ship does the same, and the middle one takes up the whole school of fish, and so it can't regenerate anymore. So it's really unsustainable how at this moment fishing is done.
And yet demand for seafood is predicted to rise in the future.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
definitely unsustainable. Now, I imagine that some species are feeling the impact of that overfishing more than others. Are there particular species that you're especially vulnerable, and when those populations decline, what knock-on effects does that have on the broader ecosystem?
Yeah. So the best known is the bluefin tuna. It's a highly commercial value for sushi. So it's slot fished, and it has very slow growth and late maturity. So it takes time to get back on the same level. Second one is the Atlantic cod. It's historically overfished due to high demands. Also, it's also slow recovery due to the climate change effect. So it's also there. It's taking time to come to the same levels. Then what the consequences are, there are 4 consequences. First of all, the ecosystem disruption. So removing keystone species can lead to uncontrolled prey populations and ecosystem collapses. Then you have the economic losses. Fishery-dependent communities, they see their market going. Then you have, of course, the food security risks. Overfishing depletes resources crucial for global nutrition. That's what you said earlier. So the demand for fish will only rise. And then you have the biodiversity reduction. Decreasing genetic diversity makes the ecosystems more vulnerable to environmental changes like climate changes.
Hmm. And that's a good point, actually. It's just not about the fish themselves. When certain species decline, there must be a ripple effect throughout the entire ecosystem. Are you able to talk about some of those cascading effects? I mean, how does the loss of specific fish populations impact other marine organisms and the overall health of our oceans?
Yeah. So the biodiversity makes the oceans more resilient. And this is needed even more with the warming up of our oceans. And due to the extinction of one part of the ocean food chain, the biodiversity loss is becoming a big threat. The ocean contains about 38,000 gigatons of carbon, and this is by far the largest reservoir of carbon in the Earth system. And so it's a double effect. Carbon is then released by the ocean and even feeds the global warming that collapses further the ecosystem. So it's doubling up the situation. So it's really not good.
And I mentioned it before, that was something that really stands out to me is the contradiction that we're facing, that while fish populations are declining, global demand for seafood just keeps rising. So that's a really tough balancing act. Given that conventional fishing and even aquaculture alone can't sustainably meet that demand, how do you think we can strike that balance? What role do you see cultivated seafood playing in ensuring that we can meet that demand without compromising the long-term health of marine ecosystems?
So at this moment, the supply and the demand is going further apart. We are now with 8 billion people on this globe. By 2050, it will be close to 10 billion, so 9.8. So and so the global population is still rising, but also the demand per head is rising for fish products. So the demand is increasing rapidly, while the supply. You have two sides. You have the white fisheries, which is decreasing. At this moment, is about 50% white fishing and 50% aquaculture. But the white fishing is decreasing further and further because the seas are getting more and more empty. And in the early 90s, the gap was closed by the aquaculture, so the culture on land. Which grew at that time 14-15% per year, but at this time it doesn't grow anymore. It's only 3-4%, and most of the time it's due to regulations because it's also not sustainable. A lot of antibiotics are used, so the gap is going to be there, and we expect a lot of reports telling that the gap will be around 70 million tons by 2050 of fish products being short. And that is where cellular agriculture can come in. We don't want to replace the traditional fish industry, but we want to close the gap. And since our solution is an animal friendly solution, is an environment friendly solution, this could be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's shift gears now and talk about Fishway itself, what you're doing and how you're doing it. I guess essentially you're cultivating fish ingredients, which sounds fascinating. Are you able to tell us which species you're focusing on and why you chose them?
Yeah. So in fact, the species is not that important for us because, like you said, we're making ingredients, so not the real fish fillet. So it's not that important. We try to find the fish which has the best doubling times, so the fastest population, productions, like you should say, and that grow the best on room temperature, which is as a consequence on the energy use, which we talk about later. And so that's how we choose which species we are going to use. And currently we have 4 species. We have 10 cell lines of 4 species, which is the sea bream, the sea bass, the perch, and the eel.
Okay, let's dig into the science for a bit. For those who might not be familiar with the process, how do you actually obtain the primary cells for cultivation? And once you have them, what does the process look like to culture them into something that can eventually become a seafood product once you provide it to your clients?
So we have to offer one fish, only one fish. So we take out cells of this one fish. We put them in a kind of bioreactor. We add some good food for them because they have to eat as well the cells, and we try to imitate the body of a fish in a bioreactor so that they feel happy and they start doubling, and that's what's important. And as soon as the bioreactor is full, we harvest about 80% of the biomass from the bioreactor so that the next 20% can start doubling again. So
Mhm.
it fills up, goes down, fills up, goes down, and each time we harvest the cells.
Mhm. No,
And we've that
bioreactors.
yeah,
Sorry, go on.
sorry, yeah, we have done that. We have done that now on a continuous basis, and we can prove we can do it every time. So for regulations, we have to say, okay, we can do it every time in the same way, in a controlled way that we can start produce our products.
Mhm.
So we
Now,
have the protocols ready.
yeah. So, I mean, bioreactors, they come up a lot in conversations around cultivated proteins, especially in this magazine. They're obviously a critical part of scaling production. So, how far along are you at Fishway when it comes to developing and using your bioreactors? Are there specific challenges that you're encountering at the stage that you're at?
Yes, at this moment we are not that in the big bioreactors. We are already looking at them because we have to scale up, of course. We are now working in the 3 liter bioreactors. But like you say, the biggest challenge in the bioreactors is we must make them food grade because all the bioreactors are now pharma grade, which is far too complex for us, far too expensive. So we have to work with a very simple bioreactors, and we are in contact with some design companies which really focus on the designing of bioreactors, and there we say what we need and try to design a food grade bioreactor.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, from your perspective, what do you think are the most important considerations in bioreactor design for this sector? Are there certain features or innovations that you all believe will make the big difference for companies like Fishway? I'm guessing that because you're only making the biomass, you don't need the huge
Yeah.
the bioreactors.
Indeed, yeah, and that's our part. Our part is clearly going from starting with the very basic bioreactors and then adding what we need, and not the other way around. So the ones are very complex, and you said, okay, we don't need this. No, we work the other way around. We keep it as simple as possible, and then we say, okay, we have to add some kind of tools to make it what we need to produce. So that's the other way around, and so we don't need the pharmaceutical designed bioreactors. Um, Secondly, working as cyclic as possible, but key for our cost production will be monitoring the right parameters, recycling the media by eliminating the byproducts of cell culture. So and in this way, by doing this, we can optimize the feed conversion. So what we put in, we get out, and that has to be close to one. So the bioreactor needs to be as simple as one as possible, so that we can have what we put it in, we get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, maintaining a consistent environment in bioreactors, that sounds like a real challenge, especially when you're dealing with living cells. What kind of hurdles do you face when it comes to keeping everything stable? And I'm curious, Sam, are there any differences between working with fish cells compared to mammalian cells that people might not be aware of?
Yes, there are lots of differences. First of all, the fish cells are far more robust. They can deal with variations in temperature, and same for oxygen, for acids, for carbon dioxide. So they're far more robust. Um, the biggest difference is that our fish cells can be cultivated at room temperature, while the mammalians have to be the bioreactors have to be heated up till 37 degrees. And if you have a small variation, you already have effect on the cells. We don't have that in fish cells. And then the last very important is that we have the cells of mammalians. The beginning they double fast, but it slows down and then it stops, and they have to make a new you have to start up new production.
Mhm.
At our site we already have 800 doublings, so we can say we have immortal cell lines, and that's because the fish cells, there's no senescence occurring in our cells. So it means they don't show aging. So they keep on doubling. So we like I said, we only need one fish for our production. So that's a very, very big difference.
That's a big difference, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the production side for a moment, Sam. From what I understand, scaling up cellular biomass is where a lot of the costs come in. So in your experience, what are the biggest cost drivers when it comes to biomass production? Are there any areas that you think need major breakthroughs to bring costs down?
Yeah. First of all, the medium, so the food for the cells. This is at this moment still very expensive. We're doing everything to lower it, and we have a very the target is known where we have to be. We have to be around €1 per liter, or even less. At this moment, we're still way above, but we're working on it. We see the cost price drastically dropping, but we're still not there. So it's work to be done. Second one is the bioreactor cost. So it has to be simple and not the pharma grade bioreactors. And then what's very important for the production itself is the yield. So the number of cells per liter, the more the better, of course. And the population doubling time. So how fast you get your new biomass after harvesting. And then last but not least is the conversion rate. So what you put in have to come out. So we want to be close to 1. So everything we put in, we want to get out. For instance, if you have a cow, it's you have to put 7 times more in than what you get. So cultivated fish will be close to 1.
The protein production is obviously a key part of making cultivated seafood viable. So I'm wondering, what approaches are you taking at Fishway to enhance protein production in your fish cell cultures? Are there specific techniques or innovations that you're excited about that could really move the needle?
Yeah. Now, at this moment, we are already monitoring and analyzing our stem cells on proteins. And the first results show that we have the same level of traditional fish, so we don't have to do anything, and that's very good news for us, because we don't have to make a differentiation on the cells, because what we make now from the stem cells is already of the same level as the traditional fish. So that's very good news. So it's a one production step we don't have to take at this time.
Now, I imagine that just like any living cells, fish cells have their own unique nutritional needs. Are there any nutritional requirements you have to consider to optimize protein production, and how much of a challenge is it to balance those needs while keeping the process cost effective?
Yeah, currently we have all of our cell lines in serum-free medium, but each species has its specific medium formulation, and that's quite logical because every fish is a different one. So every fish cell line has a unique traditional requirements, which can vary significantly depending on the species. This makes sense because the species can differ widely in their evolutionary history and habitat. For example, an eel and a sea bream are not closely related and have adapted to different environments and diets. Additionally, marine and freshwater species have distinct iron regulation needs, affecting the ideal salt composition of their culture medium. So every fish has its own requirements, and that's where we have 4 different mediums formulated for each different species.
So let's get into the final product side of things. When it comes to what you're making at Fishway, you're obviously focusing purely on cell biomass. Or are you working on structured tissue as well? I'm just curious how you decide which approach makes the most sense for your goals and the market that you're targeting.
No, we are not focusing on the tissue at this moment. So it's only biomass. Maybe in the future it's possible that we're gonna focus on that. But first things first, and let's first see that we get there with the biomass. And it's for the human food industry. So what's important is the high nutritional value of our product, which we have, but also the safety, the healthy reason, and that's also maybe even as important as the nutritional requirements is the health aspect. So we don't have the contaminations, we don't have the heavy metals, we don't have antibiotics use in our product. So that's what we're focusing on.
Another thing that often comes up when talking about cultivated seafood or even cultivated meat is the sustainability of the
Yeah.
production process. Growth media and energy consumption, they're two areas that seem to raise the most concerns. From your perspective, how should the industry tackle those issues to ensure that cultivated seafood remains a truly sustainable alternative? Are there any promising solutions on the horizon?
Yeah, the energy use is one of the biggest one. It has a huge environmental impact. Like I said, for aquaculture, it's less because we can heat. We don't have to heat up our bioreactors. We can produce at room temperature. So that's one very good aspect from cultivated fish. The energy we use has to be sustainable, so renewable energy. And if we come close to a food conversion rate of 1, then we're also economically doing the right thing, because what we put in we get out, so we don't have losses.
Mhm. And building on that, Sam, I know there's a lot of conversation around optimizing resource use and lowering the environmental footprint in the cultivated space. Are there any efforts or innovations that you're seeing, whether at Fishway or across the industry, that you think are promising?
Yeah, we're already using food grade basil media instead of pharma grade, which has a significantly lower impact, environmental impact. And then we want, but the future is replacing the amino acids with byproducts from the food industry and sustainable sources such as algae, yeast. So if we could do that and work together with them, yeah, then we have a very good solution.
Mhm. Looking ahead, what's next for Fishway? Are you already collaborating with any brands or manufacturers? Is that something on the horizon?
Not collaborating, but we also have had our first discussions to see what the industry wants and what we are able to give them. And there, it was clear. We thought that the nutritional value was the most important one, but it came out of the discussions that the healthy aspect is even more important. So that our product is doesn't contain any contamination.
Mhm. Let's talk about funding. It's always a big topic in this
Yeah.
space. Are you currently raising funds? And given how challenging the investment landscape seems to be right now, especially for food tech and cultivated protein companies, how do you see the market when it comes to attracting investors?
We are indeed looking for money to complete our R&D phase. So we've started up our second A round beginning of this year. The market wasn't on our side. You know all the geographical problems in the world. Also, our sector, there was a bit. It was kind of hype in the beginning. People were expecting too much too soon, and
Mhm.
that gave kind of not that good sight on our sector, but that has changed because a lot of successes were booked in 2024. Two companies in Europe applying for novel food. The first cultivated chicken was added to pet food in the UK. There were two pilot plants are built, one in Switzerland, one in the Netherlands. So we see a lot of results now, and that's making it a bit easier to find money. So I see there's a bit more interest than a few years ago.
Mhm.
So that's let's hope it's going that way.
Yeah, that's definitely a
Yeah.
positive. Now, looking at the wider industry, Sam, I know the alternative seafood space it's a relatively small and tight-knit community, but who out there is impressing you with their products? It doesn't just have to be cultivated seafood. It could be plant-based or any other approach. Who's really
Okay. Yeah.
pushing the needle in the space?
Yeah. So one competitor, of let's say it's a colleague, because the market is so huge and we have lots of different varieties of species in fish. It's Blue Seafood.
Hmm.
They were founded 2 years in before us, and they are already at pilot plant scale. So they're doing good. They're using they're already in bigger bioreactors, so they're doing good. Another one is Wanda Fish. They use the blue fina tuna.
Hmm.
Sorry, the blue fin tuna. And on plant based, it's Monkey by the Sea, which is impressing me. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
No, just as a quick aside, last year there was some news following a meeting of agricultural ministers, I think Austria, France, and Italy at the time, to seem to form a sort of coalition against the cultivated meat sector. What's your take on that? Do you think these kinds of political stances could slow down progress in the sector, or is it just part of the growing pains for a new industry such as this?
Yeah, it's certainly not helping us. But I see a little change there. Because it was a lot about misinformation. The politicians, the EU, didn't know what it really was, cellular like cultivated meat or cultivated fish. And Cellular Agriculture Europe, which is the lobby group for our industry, is doing a very good job there. The organization is informing, inviting the politicians to plants, to studies, so they start more and more to know what it is, and they said, okay, if it's that, maybe we were wrong. There's still some countries which are blocking it or against it. Italy is difficult, France is difficult, Hungary, but all the other countries are more and more aware that it might be a solution.
Mhm.
So that's like making me more happy,
Yeah,
that
it's not all bad
get
news.
aware of it. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, there's countries like Germany, Spain, the UK, and the
Yeah,
Netherlands. They're taking a much more supportive stance on
indeed. Yeah,
cultivated meats.
yeah,
Certainly in Europe, I see a lot more potential than, for instance, in the USA at the moment. You know, these
yeah.
countries
That's
recognise the
true.
potential for improving food security, cutting
Yeah,
emissions, and meeting that huge global growing demand for protein. But with so much uncertainty on the regulatory side, how do you navigate that as a company founder? How do you plan and grow Fishway in an environment where the rules aren't
yeah.
always clear?
If it takes so long in the EU, we have to go abroad. It's clear. We are not the first one. Other companies have done it. So where we are looking at is especially Singapore. There, our products are already on the market, even in the retail shops. The US, but like you say, it's getting more and more difficult in the US.
Mm,
But in Switzerland and UK, it's also a possibility. But yeah, then your markets are quite small because you can't. Okay, you can produce in Switzerland or UK. You can sell it over there, but you can't sell it in the EU. So those markets are smaller. But and alternatively, we're also looking at pet food because there the regulation is a lot less.
mhm,
You just have to register and get approved, and that's it.
mhm.
Here you have to for novel foods, you have to go through to a procedure of 2-3 years. So
As Fishway focuses on developing cell biomass rather than the finished product, are you facing the same regulatory challenges as companies bringing final products to the market, or are there
yeah,
unique hurdles for a company like yours?
it's exactly the same. So even if you make ingredients, it's as soon as it's for the human consumption, you have to go through it. Even
Mhm.
if you make ingredients for pet food, like I said, it's different. You have to register, and you can start producing for pet food.
Mhm. Well, Sam, to wrap things up, I'd love to get your thoughts on where you see this industry heading. There's still plenty of challenges to overcome, and we haven't even touched on things like consumer
Yeah.
acceptance yet. But given everything we've discussed, how do you think the cultivated seafood space will evolve over the next 5 years? And what do you think will be the key factors that determine its success?
I think we have to be patient. It's a young industry, so if we compare it to other industries like electric vehicles, it took a long time to get vehicles that have that can drive for a long distance. So we have to be patient. We have to get those cost parity as soon as possible. So we can ask for a bit more, but it cannot be double. So we have to really look at our cost prices. Certainly, for us, the taste is not that important because we are ingredients, but the taste will be very important to convince the consumer. If it doesn't taste good, yeah, the consumer will not buy it. Um, Healthy, safety, that's all tackled. So it's mainly the cost and yeah, the development. It takes time. It takes time. And on the other hand, if you want to be successful, I think we still need yeah, the EU, our countries to back us. if you see that the traditional food industry is subsidized enormously, and our industry isn't. So that's also not really fair. So that certainly will help us, and I think all the companies, and we do that. All the startups in our sector should join together and work and collaborate. And in that way, I think we will get there. We'll definitely get there, because it has to be.
Yeah, we definitely will be get there, especially with seafood. That's
absolutely
the bubble will burst. Sam,
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed hearing your insights on the cultivated seafood space and everything you're doing at Fishway. So we can only wish you all the best for the future, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you soon.
Thank you. Very welcome.
Take care. Take care.
See you.